Through the cottage window, the first pale fingers of dawn reached across the winter sky. Inside, candle flames danced shadows across walls slick with the heat of labor. Rhiannon Ashford pressed clean linen against the young woman's forehead, her voice steady despite the chaos. "That's it, Margaret. You're doing beautifully. Just breathe." Margaret gripped Rhea's hand hard enough to bruise her face twisted in pain and determination. She was young, barely 20. This was her first child. The fear in her eyes was sharp and naked. Rhea knew that fear intimately. "I can't," Margaret gasped through tears. "I can't do this." Rhea leaned close, caught the young woman's gaze, and held it. "You can. Your body knows what to do. Trust it." Another contraction rolled through like thunder. Margaret screamed, but it was a warrior's scream, not surrender. And Rhea saw the moment when a woman stops fighting the pain and flows with it instead. When she stops being afraid and becomes something ancient and unstoppable. The baby crowned. Rhea's hands moved with practiced grace, supporting, guiding, never forcing. She had learned this sacred art from Elowen, the silver-haired midwife who had saved her life and her children's lives 5 years ago. "One more push. Give me one more." Margaret bore down with everything she had, and then in a rush of fluid and blood and miracle, a baby slid into Rhea's waiting hands. Tiny, perfect, screaming with the outrage of the newly born. "A girl," Rhea announced, her throat tight. "You have a daughter." She cleaned the infant with swift, gentle hands, wrapped her in soft wool, and placed her on Margaret's chest. The young mother sobbed, but these were different tears now. Joy, relief, love so fierce it hurt to witness. Rhea stepped back, washed her hands in the basin. The water turned pink. Her fingers trembled slightly. They always did after a birth, as if her body remembered that cramped room above a tavern. No husband pacing outside. No family waiting with hope and joy. Just her. Just the babies fighting their way into a world that didn't want them. Margaret's husband burst through the door, his face wild with hope and terror. When he saw his wife, saw his daughter, he fell to his knees and wept like a child. Margaret reached for him with her free hand, and they formed a circle. Mother, father, baby. Complete. Rhea looked away. The ache in her chest was old and familiar, but it still cut deep. She gathered her supplies in silence, moving through the small room like a ghost. Margaret called out her thanks, but Rhea just nodded and smiled and slipped out into the cold morning air before the gratitude could settle on her skin like ash. The walk back to her own cottage took her through the heart of Millbrook, a village so small it barely warranted a name on most maps. That was precisely why she had chosen it. Here at the edge of the kingdom of Thornhaven, where the forest grew thick and wild, a woman could disappear. Smoke rose from chimneys as the village woke. Old Brennan was already at his forge, the clang of hammer on metal ringing out in steady rhythm. Merchant carts rattled down the dirt road. A dog barked. Children's laughter echoed from somewhere nearby. Normal, peaceful, safe. Everything Rhea had never had before she came here. Her cottage sat at the far edge of the village, backed up against the forest. Small but sturdy, with a garden where she grew healing herbs. It wasn't a castle. It wasn't the life she had been promised once in another world that felt like a dream now. But it was hers. She pushed open the door to find her children already awake. Cassian sat at the small wooden table, his silver eyes fixed on a book far too advanced for a 5-year-old. But then Cassian had never been ordinary. From the moment he entered the world silent and watchful, he had possessed an old soul's gravity. "Mama," he said without looking up, "Mrs. Margaret had her baby." It wasn't a question. Cassian always knew. "She did," Rhea confirmed, hanging her cloak by the door. "A healthy girl." "That's good." His tone was serious, measured. Then finally he looked up at her. "You're tired." Rhea smiled despite her exhaustion. "I'm fine, little love." "You say that a lot. It's not always true." Before she could respond, a whirlwind of energy burst from the bedroom. Seraphiel, called Sarah by everyone who knew her, launched herself at Rhea with absolute faith that she would be caught. And of course she was. "Mama," Sarah squealed, wrapping thin arms around Rhea's neck. "You're back. I missed you so much." Where Cassian was dark and reserved, Sarah was light and warmth incarnate. Her golden eyes sparkled with perpetual joy, and her wild curls bounced as she moved. She was the sun to her brother's moon, and Rhea loved them both with a fierceness that sometimes frightened her. "I was only gone one night, sweetheart." "That's forever," Sarah pulled back, her small face indignant. "Cassian made breakfast, but he burned the porridge." "I did not burn it," Cassian said calmly. "I heated it too long. There's a difference. It tasted like burned." "Then perhaps you should learn to cook yourself." Sarah stuck her tongue out at her brother. Cassian returned to his book unperturbed. It was their morning ritual, this gentle bickering. It meant everything was as it should be. Safe. Normal. But as Rhea set Sarah down and moved to inspect the questionable porridge, a chill ran down her spine. The same chill she had felt intermittently for the past 3 days. The sense of being watched, of something approaching. She glanced out the window toward the forest. Nothing moved among the trees but wind and shadow. Yet the feeling persisted, a whisper at the edge of her awareness. Mama, Cassian's voice pulled her back. He was watching her with those two knowing eyes. What's wrong, Mom? Nothing, just tired like you said. She forced brightness into her tone. Why don't you both play outside while I rest for a bit? Cassian's gaze lingered on her face a moment longer, weighing, assessing. Then he nodded slowly and closed his book. Come on, Sarah. Let's go see if the kittens in the barn have opened their eyes yet. Sarah's resulting squeal nearly shook the rafters. She grabbed her brother's hand and dragged him toward the door. Cassian went willingly, but he looked back at Rhea once before leaving. That look said he knew she was lying. He always knew. The door closed behind them and Rhea was alone. She sank into the chair Cassian had vacated, her body suddenly too heavy to support. The exhaustion wasn't just physical. It was the weight of 5 years of constant vigilance. 5 years of looking over her shoulder. 5 years of knowing that the peace she had built could shatter at any moment. Because men like Dorian Blackwood didn't stop searching. And fathers like Alaric Ashford never forgot a debt they believed was owed. Her hand drifted to her stomach, an unconscious gesture. Empty now, but once it had carried the weight of 2 lives, 2 miracles she hadn't known she was creating until it was almost too late. The memory rose like a tide, and this time Rhea didn't fight it. 5 years ago, she had been a different person entirely. Rhiannon Ashford's second daughter of Lord Alaric had been nobody special in a court full of extraordinary people. Her older sister Morgana possessed beauty that made men stupid and cunning, that made them dangerous. Rhea had neither. She was plain quiet, easily overlooked, which was why when Alpha King Dorian Blackwood chose her as his mate, the entire kingdom had gasped in collective shock. Dorian. Even now, 5 years later, his name could make her heart stutter. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that always seemed slightly disheveled and silver eyes that saw everything. He moved through the world with the unconscious grace of apex predators, commanding respect without effort. And he had chosen her. The courtship had been brief but intoxicating. Private conversations in moonlit gardens, his hand at the small of her back during formal dinners, the way he looked at her as if she were the only person in the room, the only person who mattered. You're different from the others, he had told her once, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. They all want something from me. Power, status, wealth. But you just want to be seen. And he had seen her, or so she had believed. 2 months before the wedding, Rhea had felt the first stirrings of change in her body. Nausea that came and went like waves, a tenderness in her breasts, a strange fluttering sensation deep in her belly. Elowen, the court healer, had examined her with knowing eyes and gentle hands. You're with child, my dear, perhaps 8 weeks along. The news should have brought joy. Instead, it brought terror, because bearing the Alpha King's heir before the mating ceremony was complete would give her father, Lord Alaric, exactly the leverage he had always wanted: control over the succession, control over the throne. Rhea had kept it secret, told no one. Not Dorian, not Morgana, not even her lady's maid. She had planned to reveal it on their wedding night in private, when it would be a gift between mates rather than a political weapon. She had been so naive. The night before the ceremony, Rhea couldn't sleep. Excitement and anxiety warred in her chest. Tomorrow she would bind her life to Dorian's forever. Tomorrow she would become queen. Tomorrow everything would change. She wandered the castle in her nightgown, bare feet silent on cold stone. The moon was full, pouring silver light through the arched windows. Garlands of winter jasmine hung everywhere, filling the corridors with sweetness. Everything was ready. Everything was perfect. Except for the wrongness that pulled at her chest. She found herself walking toward Dorian's chambers without conscious decision. Perhaps she just needed to see him. Perhaps she needed reassurance that this was real. But as she approached his door, she heard voices. Low, intimate, a woman's laugh, throaty and familiar. Rhea's hand froze on the door handle. She should have knocked, should have announced herself. Should have done anything but push that door open and step inside. But she did. The scene burned itself into her memory with perfect, brutal clarity. Dorian pressed against the far wall, a woman wrapped around him, hands in his hair, mouth on his throat, his hands gripping her waist, pulling her closer. And the woman's face tilted toward the door with a smile of pure, vicious triumph. Morgana, her sister, her beautiful, cunning, ambitious sister. For a moment, the world went strange and distant, sounds muffled as if Rhea were underwater. Her vision tunneled until all she could see was that smile, that knowing, satisfied smile. Oh, Morgana said, her voice like honey laced with poison. Hello, little sister. Dorian turned. His silver eyes met Ria's across the room, and she searched his face desperately for something. Shock, guilt, remorse, anything. But his expression was flat, cold, empty of recognition. Rhiannon, his voice was different, harder than she had ever heard it. You shouldn't be here. She couldn't breathe. The air had turned to glass in her lungs, cutting with every attempted inhale. Tomorrow, she managed, her voice cracking. Tomorrow is a political arrangement. Dorian stepped away from Morgana, but he didn't come toward Rhea. He stayed exactly where he was, a stranger wearing her beloved's face. This is something else entirely. Morgana laughed, covering her mouth delicately with one hand. Did you really think he loved you? The question struck like a physical blow. Rhea staggered backward, her hip hitting the doorframe. The pain was sharp and grounding, a small hurt to anchor her against the larger one, threatening to consume her whole. I know this must be confusing, Dorian continued, his tone patient, condescending. Our mating will proceed as planned. You'll give me heirs, attend court functions. Beyond that, I have no use for you. No use for you. The words echoed in Rhea's skull. Her wolf, the primal part of her that connected to the moon, and the wild howled inside her chest. A sound of pure anguish that she barely managed to keep trapped in her throat. Her hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, to the secret growing there. The children, though, she didn't know it yet that she had been so eager to share with him. No use. She stumbled back another step, then another. Where are you going? Morgana called, her voice light with amusement. The ceremony is tomorrow. You can't run away from your duty. But she could. She was running before the conscious decision formed. Flying through the castle corridors past startled servants, through the great hall with its carefully arranged flowers and ceremonial banners. Her bare feet slapped against stone, then grass, then the soft earth of the forest floor. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs gave out, until she collapsed at the base of an ancient oak and sobbed so hard she thought her body might shatter from the force of it. Hours passed. Dawn began to lighten the sky. Somewhere behind her, the castle would be stirring. People would be looking for the missing bride. Rhea pressed both hands to her stomach, trying to steady her breathing. Inside, her cells were dividing and multiplying, building two tiny hearts that would soon beat in rhythm with her own. Hearts that belonged to children who would never know their father, because she couldn't go back. The thought of standing before the kingdom, binding herself to a man who saw her as nothing but a vessel, was unbearable. A village, she thought desperately. A remote village where no one knew her name. She could work as a healer. She had always had a gift for it. She could disappear. She could become no one. She could keep her babies safe. Rhea stood on shaking legs and made herself walk away from everything she had ever known. She didn't look back. Not at the castle rising in the distance. Not at the life she had almost lived. She simply walked until the kingdom of Thornhaven was nothing but memory. The journey to Millbrook took 3 weeks. Rhea traveled on foot, moving through small towns and avoiding main roads. She sold her jewelry piece by piece to buy food and passage on farmers' carts. Her nightgown was replaced with simple traveling clothes. Her soft hands developed calluses, and inside her, the babies grew. By the time she reached Millbrook, she was 4 months along and starting to show. The village was exactly what she needed, small, isolated, populated by people who minded their own business and didn't ask uncomfortable questions. She found work initially as a serving girl at the tavern. But when the innkeeper's wife went into difficult labor, Rhea's healing knowledge saved both mother and child. Word spread. The strange young woman with gentle hands became the person villagers sought when sickness or injury struck. And when her own time came, it was Elowen who attended her. The old midwife arrived at Rhea's rented room above the tavern with supplies and a knowing look that said she understood far more than Rhea had revealed. Twins, Elowen announced after a brief examination. I can hear 2 heartbeats. Rhea's world tilted. 2. Yes, child. You're carrying 2 babies, and they'll be here soon. The labor began that night, long, brutal, endless. Rhea had attended enough births by then to know that something was wrong. The babies weren't positioned correctly. One was breech. If they had been in a city with trained physicians and modern medicine, there might have been options. But they weren't. There was only Elowen's weathered hands and Rhea's own stubborn refusal to let her children die before they even had a chance to live. You have to push, Elowen commanded. I know you're tired. I know it hurts, but these babies need you to fight. So Rhea fought. She pushed until blood vessels burst in her eyes, until her voice gave out from screaming, until she existed in a place beyond pain, in some primal space where there was only the work and the will. The first baby came just before dawn, silent, terrifyingly silent. Elowen worked while quickly clearing airways, stimulating circulation. For 5 eternal seconds, Rhea was certain she had lost him. Then a gasp, a shuddering breath, but no cry. The baby opened silver eyes, ancient and knowing, and simply looked at her, as if assessing, as if deciding whether this world was worth the trouble of living in it. A boy, Elowen said softly, placing him on Rhea's chest. Strong, quiet, but strong. Rhea's arms came up to hold him, and the love that flooded through her was so overwhelming it felt like dying and being reborn in the same instant. He was tiny, imperfect, and hers. Cassian, she whispered. The name came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Your name is Cassian. Those silver eyes held hers, and Rhea could have sworn she saw understanding flicker in their depths. 10 minutes later, the second baby arrived in a rush. This one announced her presence with a wail that could have woken the dead. Loud, insistent, full of rage at being forced from the warm darkness into cold reality. A girl, Elowen laughed. She's got a set of lungs on her. Golden eyes where her brother had inherited silver from their father. This little one's eyes shone like honey in sunlight. Seraphio, Rhea breathed. Sarah. The baby's cries softened as Rhea pulled her close, placing her next to her brother. Cassian turned his head toward his sister, and Sarah immediately quieted. They lay curled together on Rhea's chest, 2 halves of a whole, and Rhea wept. Not from pain, not from loss, but from the terrible, beautiful knowledge that she would do anything, sacrifice everything, burn the entire world to ash if it meant keeping these 2 souls safe. You did well, Elowen said, cleaning up with efficient movements. Better than well. Most women wouldn't have survived that labor. I couldn't leave them, Rhea murmured, unable to look away from her children's faces. They need me. Yes. Something shifted in Elowen's expression. Softness, respect. And you need them too, I think. That was the truth Rhea hadn't wanted to admit. These babies, unplanned and conceived in what she now believed was a lie, had become her reason for living, her purpose, her everything. Elowen stayed with them for 3 days, teaching Rhea how to nurse, how to change linens, how to read the tiny signals that indicated hunger or discomfort. And on the 3rd day, as she prepared to leave, the old woman paused in the doorway. I don't know what you're running from, child, and I won't ask, but I want you to know you're safe here. Millbrook looks after its own. Tears pricked Rhea's eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Raising 1 baby is hard. Raising 2 alone. Elowen shook her head. You'll need help. I'll come by when I can. She kept that promise. Over the following months and years, Elowen became the grandmother Rhea's children had never known. The mentor who taught Rhea not just midwifery but the deeper mysteries of healing. The friend who never questioned and never judged. And slowly, painfully, Rhea built a life. 5 years passed in the rhythm of seasons and children's laughter. Cassian grew into a serious, thoughtful boy who spoke little but noticed everything. He taught himself to read from books Rhea borrowed from the village's small collection. He could identify every plant in her garden by sight and smell. And sometimes, when he thought no one was watching, he would go very still, his eyes distant as if listening to something only he could hear. Sarah was his opposite in every way. She collected friends like flowers, charming everyone she met with her sunny disposition and infectious laugh. She sang constantly made-up songs about birds and butterflies and the adventures she would have when she grew up. And she loved with a wholeness that sometimes terrified Rhea, because love like that could be weaponized by cruel people. They were extraordinary, both of them, and Rhea lived in constant fear that someone would notice. But Millbrook was kind. The villagers accepted the strange healer woman and her unusual children without question. Old Brennan taught Cassian metalwork. Merchant Anna let Sarah help arrange flowers in the market stall. They had community, safety, peace. Until the morning Rhea returned from Margaret's birth with that chill of premonition running down her spine. The feeling persisted through the day. Rhea tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow seemed to hide threats. By evening, her nerves were stretched so thin that when Cassian dropped a cup, she nearly screamed. Sorry, Mama, he said, looking at her with concern. Are you sick? No, sweetheart, just tired. But he didn't believe her. And neither did Sarah, who climbed into Rhea's lap and wrapped small arms around her neck. Don't be sad, the little girl whispered. We love you so much. Rhea held her daughter tight, breathing in the scent of sunshine and innocence. I love you too, both of you, more than anything in this world or any other. That night, she lay awake listening to the children's breathing from the small bedroom they shared. Cassian's slow and measured. Sarah's soft and quick. The sounds of her entire world contained in 2 small bodies. When she finally slept, her dreams were full of silver eyes and betrayal, and running through endless forests toward a safety that never came. She woke to the sound of horses. Multiple horses moving fast, the thunder of hooves against earth growing louder with each heartbeat. Rhea was out of bed and at the window in seconds, her heart in her throat. 12 riders crested the hill at the edge of the village. 12 men in black and silver livery, the royal guard, and at their head, mounted on a midnight stallion, was a ghost from her past. Dorian Blackwood. He looked exactly as she remembered, and nothing like she remembered. The same sharp jaw, the same silver eyes, the same presence that seemed to bend reality around him. But he was thinner now, paler. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before, and something in his posture spoke of exhaustion so deep it had become part of him. Rhea's hands gripped the windowsill hard enough to hurt. 5 years. 5 years of peace. And somehow she had always known deep down that it couldn't last forever. Behind her, she heard the children stirring. "Mama?" Cassian's voice alert despite the early hour. "There are horses." She turned to find both of them standing in the bedroom doorway. Cassian watchful. Sarah uncertain. "I know, loves. Go back to bed. It's nothing." But Cassian's eyes met hers and the lie crumbled between them. "It's not nothing," he said quietly. "Is it?" Before Rhea could answer, a knock sounded at the door. 3 sharp raps. Authoritative, demanding. Her wolf rose close to the surface, defensive and desperate. Every instinct screamed at her to grab the children and run. But where the riders surrounded the village, there was nowhere left to hide. Another knock. Harder. "Stay here," she told the children. "No matter what you hear, stay in this house." Cassian's jaw tightened. He looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded and pulled Sarah back into the bedroom, closing the door. Rhea crossed to the front door. Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle. 5 years of peace ending in a single moment. She opened it. Dorian stood on her doorstep, and for a long, terrible moment, neither of them spoke. Up close, the changes in him were more pronounced. New scars on his hands, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there, and something in his gaze that looked almost like devastation. "Rhiannon," he said, and her name was a ragged breath. She gripped the door frame to keep from swaying. Hearing him say her name again, after 5 years of silence, was like a knife between her ribs. "You need to leave," she managed. "I've been searching for you for 5 years. Then you've wasted 5 years. I have nothing to say to you." He flinched as if she'd struck him. "Please, just let me." "Let you what?" Her voice cracked with fury she hadn't known she still carried. "Explain? Apologize. Tell me it meant nothing while you had your hands all over my sister." Pain flashed across his features, but it was Rhea's pain reflected back at her from eyes that had once looked at her with something she'd believed was love. "I need to tell you what really happened that night," he said. "I know what happened. I saw you, Dorian. I heard what you said, that I was nothing but a political arrangement, a vessel for heirs." The color drained from his face. "That's impossible. I never don't." She raised a hand, cutting him off. "Don't stand there and lie to my face. I may have been naive 5 years ago, but I'm not that girl anymore." His jaw clenched. "Rhiannon, I swear to you I was drugged that night. I woke up hours later with no memory of what happened. When I went looking for you, you were gone. Your father told me you'd fled in shame. My father is a liar. I know that now, but then," his voice broke. "I didn't know what to believe. All I knew was that you'd vanished, and I couldn't find you. I've had men searching every corner of this realm." Something cold moved through Rhea's chest. Drugged. He'd been drugged, but that was impossible. She had seen him, heard his voice, watched him with Morgana. Unless, no, this was another trick, another manipulation. She wouldn't fall for it again. "Leave," she said flatly, "and don't come back." "I can't do that. This is my home, my land. You have no authority here. I'm the Alpha King. I have authority everywhere." "Not over me." She lifted her chin, letting her wolf rise close to the surface. "I rejected the mate bond the night I left. You have no claim on me." The words landed like blows. She watched them hit, watched pain bloom across his features. But he didn't retreat. Instead, his gaze shifted past her to the window, to the small faces peering out between the curtains before quickly disappearing. When he looked back at Rhea, there was something new in his eyes, something between wonder and heartbreak. "The children," he said softly. "I saw them yesterday, playing in the garden. A boy with silver eyes, a girl with gold." Rhea's grip on the door frame tightened until her knuckles went white. "They're mine, aren't they?" The question hung in the air between them. Rhea could lie. She should lie. But Cassian's eyes were Dorian's eyes, undeniable and perfect. And lies had caused enough damage already. "They're mine," she said carefully. "I raised them, I protected them, I gave them everything they needed when you gave them nothing. Because I didn't know they existed." His voice was barely above a whisper now. "You were pregnant when you left. 2 months. He staggered as if she'd punched him. 2 months, and you didn't tell me. I was going to, on our wedding night. I wanted it to be special private, but then I found you with my sister, and it didn't matter anymore. It would have mattered. It does matter. Rhiannon, please. The door to the bedroom burst open. Cassian stood in the doorway, small fists clenched, positioning himself between his mother and the stranger like a wolf pup defending his pack. Leave my mother alone, he growled. Dorian went absolutely still. He stared at the boy, his son, with an expression Rhea had never seen on his face before. Wonder. Heartbreak. Longing so raw it made her chest ache despite everything. I'm not here to hurt anyone, Dorian said, slowly crouching to Cassian's level. I promise. Cassian's eyes narrowed. It was Dorian's exact expression on a child's face, and the similarity was devastating. Mama said promises are just words. Actions are what matter. A flicker of something crossed Dorian's gaze. Respect, or grief for the years he'd missed. Your mother is very wise, he said, and she's right. He straightened, turning back to Rhea. I won't force you to come back. I won't drag you anywhere against your will. But I'm not leaving this village until you hear the truth. All of it. I've heard enough lies to last a lifetime. Then hear this. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the rapid pulse in his throat, the barely leashed emotion in every line of his body. I loved you, Rhiannon. I never stopped. Not for a single day of these 5 miserable years. And if someone made you see something that wasn't real, I need to know who, because I will tear them apart with my bare hands for what they've taken from us. The certainty in his voice was terrifying, because part of Rhea, a foolish, wounded part she'd tried to kill, wanted to believe him. Mama, Sarah's small voice came from behind Cassian. She peeked around, her brother, golden eyes wide. Who is that man? Why does he look so sad? Rhea closed her eyes. This was a nightmare. A living nightmare. Give me 1 week, Dorian murmured. 1 week to prove I'm telling the truth. If I can't, I'll leave and never return. You have my word. She should say no, should drive him away, pack up her children, and run again. But she was so tired of running. And the way Cassian was looking at Dorian, curious despite his protective stance. The way Sarah's inherent empathy was already responding to the sadness in this stranger's eyes. 1 week, Rhea heard herself say. Then you're gone. Relief crashed across Dorian's features. Thank you. Don't thank me, and don't think this changes anything. You're a stranger to them. To me. Nothing you say will change what I saw. He nodded, accepting the boundary. I understand. May I know their names? Rhea hesitated. But the damage was already done. Cassian, she said, placing a hand on her son's shoulder. And Seraphiel. We call her Sarah. Dorian repeated the names, silently tasting them. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. They're beautiful, he whispered. Both of them. You've raised them well. Before Rhea could respond, the sound of more hooves filled the morning air, but this time the rider wore crimson, the colors of House Ashford. And as the horse crested the hill, Rhea's blood turned to ice. Morgana. Her sister sat astride a white mare dressed in traveling clothes, but still managing to look regal. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and even from a distance, Rhea could see that she looked different. Thinner, harder. There were shadows under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. Morgana pulled her horse to a stop at the edge of Rhea's property. For a long moment, the sisters simply stared at each other across 5 years of silence and betrayal. Then Morgana dismounted and did something Rhea never expected. She fell to her knees in the dirt. Sister, Morgana said, her voice cracking with emotion Rhea didn't trust. Please, I know you have no reason to listen to me. I know what I did. But Father is coming. He's bringing 300 men, and he's not coming to talk. Ice flooded Rhea's veins. What? He's coming to kill everyone in this village and take the children by force. Morgana's hands were shaking. I came to warn you, to help you, her voice broke, to beg your forgiveness for what I helped him do. Dorian's hand moved to his sword. His men were already forming a defensive line, but Rhea couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her father, coming here, for her children. Mama, Cassian's small hand found hers and the touch grounded her. What's happening? Rhea looked down at her son, at Sarah, who had crept forward to peek around the doorframe, at these 2 perfect, innocent souls who didn't deserve to be caught in the web of her family's poison. Then she looked at Dorian, who was watching her with something that might have been understanding. And finally at Morgana, still kneeling in the dirt, tears streaming down her face. Tell me everything, Rhea said, from the beginning, and it better be the truth. Because if her father was coming, if the fragile peace she'd built was about to shatter, then she needed to know exactly what she was fighting, and who her true enemies were. The sun rose higher, burning away the morning mist. And in that small cottage at the edge of the world, 5 years of lies were about to unravel. One way or another, the truth would set them free, or destroy them all. They moved inside a strange procession of broken people carrying broken truths. Morgana walked with her head bowed, still filthy from kneeling in the dirt. Dorian positioned himself by the door, hands resting on his sword hilt, eyes tracking every movement. His guards spread through the village in a silent perimeter shields against whatever storm was coming. And Rhea stood in the center of her small cottage, flanked by her children, watching her past collide with her present in a way that made her bones ache. "Sit," she said to Morgana. Not kind, not cruel, just empty. Her sister sank into the wooden chair as if her strings had been cut. Up close, the changes were more apparent. Morgana had always been beautiful in that sharp, dangerous way, like a knife wrapped in silk. But now there was something hollow in her eyes, something that looked almost like haunting. "Start talking," Rhea commanded, Morgana's hands twisted in her lap. "The night before your wedding. What you saw wasn't real." "I know what I saw. You saw what Father wanted you to see." Morgana's voice was barely above a whisper. "He hired someone, a magic user. Father paid him to impersonate Dorian while the real one was unconscious." The room tilted. Rhea gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. "That's impossible." "It's not." Morgana finally looked up, and the pain in her eyes was so raw it cut. "Father drugged Dorian's wine at dinner. While Dorian was passed out in the West Tower, the impersonator wore his face, said terrible things in his voice. Made you believe—" "Stop," Rhea's voice cracked like breaking ice. "Just stop. Why would Father do that?" "What could he possibly gain?" Dorian spoke from his position by the door. "Power. He's always wanted power. If you fled in disgrace, the council would have forced me to marry someone else, someone he could control." "Morgana," Rhea said. Her sister nodded. "I was supposed to be the replacement, the loyal daughter who would bind House Ashford to the throne. Father had it all planned." Cassian's hand found Rhea's. His small fingers were surprisingly strong. "Why are you telling us this now?" he asked, his child's voice carrying a weight that made the adults pause. Morgana's gaze shifted to the boy, and something flickered across her face. Grief, maybe, or recognition of what her actions had cost. "Because Father has gone too far. Because I can't—" her voice broke. "I can't watch him hurt more people. Not anymore." "You helped him." Rhea's fury was cold and precise. "You were there that night. You played your part. You smiled at me while I shattered." "I know, and I will carry that for the rest of my life." Tears spilled down Morgana's cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. "But I had my reasons. Terrible reasons, but reasons nonetheless. There's no justification for what you did." "I'm not asking for justification. I'm trying to give you the truth." Morgana reached into her cloak with trembling hands and pulled out a folded piece of parchment yellowed with age. "This is Mother's suicide letter. The real one. Not the one Father showed the court." The world stopped. Their mother had died 10 years ago, found in her chambers with an empty vial of poison beside her. The official story was illness, a weak heart that finally gave out. But there had always been whispers, suspicions that were never quite voiced aloud. Rhea's hands shook as she took the letter. The paper felt fragile, as if it might crumble to dust at any moment. Her mother's handwriting flowed across the page in elegant script that grew increasingly erratic toward the end. "My darling girls, if you are reading this, then I have failed to protect you, and for that I am deeply sorry. Your father is not the man I married. Perhaps he never was. I have discovered things, terrible things, about his dealings with dark forces. He seeks power beyond what is natural or right. He will use you, both of you, as pieces on his board. Morgana, my fierce one, he will prey on your ambition. He will convince you that loyalty to him is strength. It is not. It is a cage. Rhiannon, my gentle heart, he will try to break your spirit because soft things terrify him. Do not let him. Your gentleness is not weakness. It is the truest form of courage. I tried to leave. I tried to take you both away from here. But Alaric discovered my plans. He gave me a choice drink, the poison willingly, or watch him hurt you. I chose the poison. I will always choose you. Forgive me for not being strong enough to fight him. Forgive me for leaving you alone with a monster. And please, my daughters, take care of each other. You are sisters. You are blood. Do not let him turn you into enemies. I love you both. I love you so much it hurts to breathe." The letter ended there. No signature. Just a smudged thumbprint that might have been blood or tears or both. Rhea read it 3 times before she could process the words. Her mother hadn't chosen death. She had been murdered. Slowly. Deliberately. By the man who should have protected her. "He killed her," Rhea whispered. Morgana's sob was harsh and broken. "I found this letter 2 years after she died. hidden in a false bottom of her jewelry box. I was 16. I confronted father, and he told me that if I ever spoke of it, he would do the same to you. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. So you became his perfect daughter. I became his weapon. I did everything he asked. Smiled when he told me to smile. Charmed whoever he needed charmed. And when he told me to seduce the Alpha King to position myself as your replacement, I did it. Morgana's hands covered her face. I told myself I was protecting you, that if I played along, he would leave you alone, let you have your happy ending. But he didn't. No, because you weren't supposed to be happy. You were supposed to be broken, ruined, so desperate that you would come crawling back to him and he could use your disgrace as leverage. Use your children. She choked on the word. Use your children as hostages. Rhea's arms tightened around Cassian and Sarah. Both of them had gone very still, listening to adult truths that no child should have to hear. You should have told me. I tried. Morgana's anguish filled the small room. The night before your wedding, I came to your chambers. Do you remember I asked if you were certain, if you truly loved him? I was trying to give you a chance to walk away before father's plan went into motion. The memory surfaced hazy and incomplete. Morgana in her doorway unusually serious, asking questions that had seemed strange at the time. I thought you were jealous. I was, but not of Dorian, of your freedom. You were getting out, escaping father's reach, and I was so envious. Morgana's laugh was bitter. But mostly I was terrified, because I knew what was coming and I couldn't stop it. You could have warned me properly. He was watching, always watching. If I had said too much, he would have known, would have hurt you immediately instead of just later. Morgana stood abruptly, began pacing the small space like a caged animal. I made choices, Rhiannon. Terrible choices. I played my part in that awful night, and I will never forgive myself. But I need you to understand I was trying to keep you alive. Dorian's voice cut through the tension. And after Rhiannon fled, what then? Morgana turned to face him, and for the first time, Rhea saw genuine remorse in her sister's expression. I tried to find her. Secretly. I hired trackers, paid informants, followed every lead. When I finally discovered she'd made it to Millbrook, I sent someone to watch over her. Rhea's stomach dropped. Who? The answer came from the doorway. Elowen stepped into the cottage, her silver hair pulled back in its usual braid, her weathered face carved with lines that spoke of hard truths and harder choices. Me, the old midwife said simply. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Rhea actually staggered. You, Elowen's eyes were kind but unflinching. Lady Morgana contacted me 5 years ago, asked me to come to Millbrook to watch over a young woman who would need help. She paid me well. Very well. So everything was a lie. Rhea's voice came out strangled. Our friendship, your kindness, you were just following orders. At first, Elowen crossed to Rhea and took her hands holding tight when Rhea tried to pull away. At first, yes, I came here because Morgana hired me. But child, what I felt for you, what I feel for these babies, that's real. That was never part of any plan. How can I believe you? Because I stayed. Elowen's grip tightened. Morgana's money ran out after the first year. She had nothing left to pay me, but I stayed. Because you needed me. Because those babies needed me. Because in 30 years of delivering children, I'd never seen a woman fight as hard as you did to bring them into this world safely. Tears blurred Rhea's vision. You should have told me the truth. Yes, I should have. And I'm sorry, I'm so deeply sorry. Elowen released her hands and stepped back. But I'm telling you now, everything Morgana said is true. Lord Alaric is coming, and he's not the kind of man who negotiates. Sarah tugged at Rhea's skirt, her golden eyes wide with fear. Mama, I don't understand. Why does grandfather want to hurt us? The question hung in the air, innocent and devastating. Rhea crouched down, bringing herself to her daughter's eye level. Because some people are sick inside, sweetheart. And they try to make everyone around them sick too. But we're not sick. No, little love. We're strong, and we're going to stay strong together. Cassian's expression was far too serious for a 5-year-old. Are we going to have to fight? Before Rhea could answer, Dorian spoke. I won't let it come to that. I'll position my men around the village. We can fortify. 300 against 12. Morgana shook her head. Father isn't stupid. He knows you're here, Your Majesty. He's been watching this village since you arrived. He waited for you to find Rhiannon because he wants you both in the same place. Why? Because then he can destroy you together. Morgana's voice was hollow. Kill you, take the children, claim they're the last heirs of House Ashford. Raise them to be his puppets. He's been planning this for 5 years. Rhea's mind raced. 300 men, trained mercenaries if Alaric had the money and motivation. Against 12 royal guards, one alpha king, and a village of farmers who had never held weapons for anything more dangerous than hunting deer. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and she had two small children to protect. There has to be another way, she said. Dorian's jaw set in a hard line. I could call for reinforcements. My full army is 3 days away at minimum, Morgana interrupted. Father will be here by dawn tomorrow. You don't have time. The hopelessness of the situation pressed down on Rhea like a physical weight. After everything, after 5 years of building a safe life for her children, it was all going to end in blood and fire. Then we run, she said. We take the children and we disappear again. There's nowhere left to run. Dorian's voice was gentle but firm. Rhiannon, if Alaric has been tracking us this long, he'll just follow again. And next time there might not be warning. He was right. She knew he was right. But the alternative was unthinkable. I won't let my children become casualties in my father's war for power. They won't be. Dorian crossed the room and slowly, carefully placed his hands on her shoulders. I promise you, Rhiannon, I will die before I let anything happen to them. The certainty in his voice sent a chill through her. Because she could see it in his eyes, he meant it. He would sacrifice himself for children he'd only just learned existed. Why? The word escaped before she could stop it. Why do you care so much? You didn't even know they were real until yesterday. Because they're yours. His thumbs brushed against her collarbone, a touch so light she might have imagined it. And because some part of me always knew the truth and I couldn't let it go. Rhea wanted to pull away, wanted to maintain the wall she'd built so carefully over 5 years of solitude. But Cassian was watching with those two knowing silver eyes. And Sarah was leaning against her legs, seeking comfort in the storm. I don't know if I can trust you, Rhea admitted. I know, but maybe you can trust this. I'm here. I'm not leaving. And I will do whatever it takes to keep you and our children safe. Our children. The words settled over Rhea like a blanket, warm and terrifying. A knock at the door shattered the moment. One of Dorian's guards stood in the doorway, his face grim. Your Majesty, riders approaching from the south. 20 of them. They're flying Lord Ashford's colors. Morgana went pale. He's sent an advance party. He's testing your defenses. Dorian's hand moved to his sword. How long until the main force arrives? If he sent scouts ahead, the bulk of his army will be here by midnight. Morgana's voice shook. He'll attack before dawn when everyone's asleep. Rhea's mind raced. Midnight. They had less than 12 hours. Cassian, Sarah. She turned to her children, forcing her voice to stay calm. I need you to go with Elowen. She's going to take you somewhere safe. No, Sarah's shout was immediate and fierce. We stay with you. Cassian's jaw set in a stubborn line that was pure Dorian. We're not leaving you, Mama. This isn't a discussion. Let them stay. Dorian's interruption was unexpected. Well, not in the fighting, but close enough that we can protect them directly. If we hide them somewhere and Alaric's men find them first. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Rhea understood. At least if the children were close, she could fight for them, could put her body between them and any threat. There's a root cellar beneath the village hall, Elowen said. Stone walls, only one entrance. I can take them there. It's defendable. It wasn't ideal, but nothing about this situation was ideal. All right, Rhea knelt and pulled both children into a fierce embrace. You stay with Elowen. You don't come out until Mama, or she hesitated, then forced the words, or your father comes for you. Do you understand? Sarah nodded against her shoulder, but Cassian pulled back his silver eyes, searching Rhea's face. You're going to fight grandfather. If I have to, yes. Good. The word was cold, hard, completely at odds with his child's voice. He deserves it. The darkness in that statement chilled Rhea to her core. Her son, her gentle, serious boy, had hate in his heart. Because of her. Because of the poison her family carried. Cassian. He hurt grandmama. He hurt you. He wants to hurt Sarah. The boy's hands clenched into fists. I hope you make him sorry. Before Rhea could respond, he turned and walked to Elowen, taking Sarah's hand. The old midwife gathered both children, close, her eyes meeting Rhea's over their heads. I'll guard them with my life, she promised. I know. Elowen ushered the children out, and the cottage suddenly felt too empty, too quiet. Morgana stood by the window, staring out at the approaching riders. I should go, she said softly. If Father's men see me here, they'll know I betrayed him. It'll make things worse. Stay. The word came from Dorian. You have information we need. Battle formations, supply lines, weaknesses in Alaric's strategy. He's my father. He's a monster. Dorian's voice was iron. And you said yourself you can't watch him hurt more people. So help us stop him. Morgana's shoulders shook. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then quietly, his men are mercenaries, loyal to gold, not cause. If we can cut off their payment, they'll scatter, Rhea finished. Father keeps his gold in a locked chest, 3 guards on it at all times. Morgana turned from the window. But there's a weakness. The commander of his mercenary force is a man named Garrett. He's served Father for 10 years, but he has a daughter, 8 years old. Father's been holding her as insurance of Garrett's loyalty. Rhea's stomach turned. He's using a child as a hostage. It's what he does. It's all he knows. Morgana's voice cracked. If you could free her, give Garrett his daughter back, he might turn on Father. Without their commander, the mercenaries would fracture. It was a plan, risky and desperate, but a plan nonetheless. Dorian was already moving, issuing orders to his men. Defensive positions, supply caches, evacuation routes for villagers who couldn't fight. And Rhea stood in the center of her cottage, the place she'd built with her own hands, and felt the life she'd created crumbling around her. I need air, she said to no one in particular, and stepped outside. The afternoon sun was warm on her face, incongruous with the cold fear in her chest. Around her, Millbrook was transforming. Dorian's guards moved with military precision. Villagers whispered in worried clusters. Children were being ushered indoors. War was coming to her safe haven. Rhiannon. She turned to find Dorian standing a few feet away, hands carefully at his sides, giving her space. I need you to know something, he said. About that night 5 years ago. Dorian, I can't, please, just listen. He stepped closer and she could see the exhaustion carved into every line of his face. I woke up in the West Tower with no memory of the previous hours. My head felt like it had been split open. When I finally made it back to my chambers, you were gone. Your belongings were gone. It was like you'd never existed. Rhea's throat tightened. Your father told me you'd confessed to plotting against the crown, that you'd fled to avoid arrest. I didn't believe him, I couldn't, but I also had no proof otherwise. His voice dropped to something raw and broken. So I searched. Every day for 5 years, I sent men to scour the kingdom. I followed every lead, no matter how thin. I rejected 17 marriage proposals because none of them were you. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand I never gave up on you. Never. Even when everyone told me to move on, to forget to accept that you were gone forever. I couldn't, because the woman I loved wasn't capable of treason. And if she ran, it was because she had no other choice. Tears burned in Rhea's eyes. I saw you with my sister. I heard your voice say terrible things. I know, and I'm not asking you to forgive me for failing to see through whatever magic was used that night. I'm just asking you to consider the possibility that we were both victims. That someone wanted to destroy us, and they very nearly succeeded. Rhea looked at him, really looked at him. The man she'd loved 5 years ago had been confident, almost arrogant in his power. This man was scarred, worn down. But there was something else too, something that looked like truth. I spent 5 years hating you, she whispered. I know. I told our children that their father didn't want them, that he was a bad man who hurt people. Pain flashed across his face, but he didn't flinch. What did you tell them about their mother? The question caught her off guard. That she was strong, that she served, that she loved them more than anything in the world. Then you told them the truth. Dorian's smile was sad and gentle. You are strong. You did survive, and you love them so fiercely it takes my breath away. He paused. I just hope that someday you might have room in your heart to let me love them too. Before Rhea could respond, a shout went up from the village perimeter. The advance riders had arrived. 20 men in crimson and black carrying banners that bore the Ashford crest. At their head rode a man Rhea didn't recognize, tall, scarred with the bearing of someone who'd seen too many battles. That's Garrett, Morgana said, appearing beside them, the mercenary commander. The riders stopped at the edge of the village. Garrett dismounted and walked forward alone, his hands conspicuously away from his weapons. Alpha King Dorian Blackwood, he called out, his voice carrying across the distance. I come with a message from Lord Alaric Ashford. Speak, Dorian commanded. Lord Alaric demands the immediate return of his daughter Rhiannon Ashford and his grandchildren to House Ashford. He offers safe passage for all parties if this demand is met by sunset. And if it's not, Garrett's expression didn't change. Then at dawn, Lord Alaric will take by force what is rightfully his. Any who stand in his way will be considered enemies of House Ashford and dealt with accordingly. Rhea stepped forward before Dorian could respond. Tell my father, she said, her voice ringing clear and cold, that his daughter is dead. She died 5 years ago when he murdered her mother and tried to destroy her future. The woman standing before you owes him nothing. Garrett's eyes widened slightly. He'd expected fear, compliance, not defiance. My lady, I'm not your lady, and I'm not going anywhere. Rhea lifted her chin. If Lord Alaric wants my children, he can come and try to take them. But he should know that I've spent 5 years learning how to survive, how to fight, how to protect what's mine. And I will burn this entire village to the ground before I let him touch them. A long silence fell. Then Garrett did something unexpected. He smiled. It was a small thing, barely there, but unmistakable. I will relay your message, my lady. He bowed slightly, mounted his horse, and rode away with his men trailing behind. Morgana grabbed Rhea's arm. Are you insane? You just declared war on our father. He declared war on me 5 years ago. I'm just finally fighting back. Dorian was looking at her with something that might have been admiration or terror, possibly both. You realize what you've just done. I've chosen my children over my father. I'd do it 1,000 times over. Rhea turned to face him fully. And if you want to help, you'll tell me everything you know about fighting a war. Something shifted in Dorian's expression. The exhausted man fell away, replaced by the Alpha King. Then let's get to work. The hours until midnight passed in a blur of preparation. Dorian drilled the villagers who could fight in basic defensive formations. Rhea prepared medical supplies, remembering every lesson Elwyn had taught her about battlefield injuries. Morgana drew maps of Alaric's camp layout, marking positions of guards and supply wagons. And as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold, Rhea found herself standing outside the village hall where her children were hidden. She could hear Sarah singing inside, her voice muffled by stone, but still recognizable. Some made-up song about birds and butterflies, as if the world weren't ending around them. She has your voice. Rhea turned to find Dorian standing behind her. She has her own voice. She just doesn't know it yet. And Cassian, what does he have? Your eyes, your stubborn streak. Rhea allowed herself a small smile. Your absolute certainty that he's right about everything. Dorian's laugh was surprised and genuine. I'm not that bad. You absolutely are. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge one by one. In the distance, campfires dotted the hills where Alaric's army was making camp. 300 men waiting for dawn. I'm afraid, Rhea admitted softly. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. What if I can't protect them? What if... Stop. Dorian's hand found hers in the darkness. You've been protecting them alone for 5 years. You don't have to do it alone anymore. His fingers intertwined with hers and Rhea didn't pull away. When this is over, she said, when we survive this, we need to talk. Really talk. About what happened. About what comes next. I'd like that. A commotion from the village center interrupted them. One of the guards was running toward them, his face pale in the torchlight. Your Majesty, my lady, there's someone here, someone who says she has information about Lord Alaric's plans. They hurried back to find a young woman standing in the center of a ring of guards. She was thin-ragged, her clothes torn and muddy, but her eyes were bright with desperate hope. Please, she gasped, please, you have to help me. My name is Clara. I'm Garrett's daughter. Rhea's heart stopped. How did you escape? I didn't. He let me go. Clara's words tumbled over each other. Garrett, my father, he sent me here with a message. He said to tell you that at dawn, when the attack begins, he'll turn his men against Lord Alaric. But you have to protect me. If father fails, Lord Alaric will kill us both. Morgana stepped forward. This could be a trap. I know my father's handwriting. Clara pulled a crumpled note from her pocket. He sent this. Dorian took the note, read it, passed it to Morgana. Her eyes widened. It's real. Garrett's code words. He's going to betray father. Why? Rhea asked Clara gently. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Because he's tired. Tired of being a monster for a monster. And because you stood up to Lord Alaric today. You weren't afraid. And my father said, he said maybe if you could be brave, so could he. Rhea pulled the girl into her arms, felt her thin shoulders shake with sobs. You're safe now, she murmured. I promise. You're safe. Over Clara's head, her eyes met Dorian's. The odds had just shifted. Not in their favor necessarily, but towards something that looked almost like hope. Get her inside with the children, Dorian ordered, and send word to our men. At dawn, when Garrett makes his move, we strike. The guards dispersed. Clara was led away toward the safety of the village hall, and Rhea found herself alone with Dorian and Morgana once more. This could work, Morgana said, but her voice was uncertain. If Garrett holds his nerve, if his men follow him, if father doesn't see it coming. Too many ifs, Rhea muttered. Welcome to war. Dorian's smile was grim. It's all ifs and maybes until the fighting starts. Then it's just survival. A rider appeared from the direction of Alaric's camp, alone, unarmed, carrying a white flag. Rhea's blood ran cold. That's one of father's personal servants, Morgana whispered. The rider stopped at the village edge and dismounted. He was young, barely more than a boy, and he was shaking. Message for the traitor Rhiannon Ashford. He called out, his voice cracking. I'm here. Rhea stepped forward. The boy looked at her with something like pity. Lord Alaric says to tell you that he knows what you're planning. He knows about Garrett, and he says if you don't surrender by midnight, he won't just kill you. The boy's voice dropped to a horrified whisper. He'll make you watch while he kills your children first. The world stopped. Rhea heard Dorian's sharp intake of breath, felt Morgana's hand grip her shoulder, but all she could focus on was the rage building in her chest, the absolute incandescent fury. You tell my father, she said, and her voice was so cold it could have frozen fire, that if he touches one hair on my children's heads, I will spend the rest of my life hunting him. I will make his death so slow, so painful, that he'll beg for mercy I will never grant. And when he's finally gone, I'll make sure history remembers him not as a lord, but as the coward who threatened babies because he was too weak to fight warriors. The boy's eyes widened. He nodded, once mounted his horse, and fled. Silence fell over the village. Then Dorian spoke, his voice filled with something that sounded like awe. You just threatened the man who raised you. He stopped being my father the moment he murdered my mother. Now he's just an enemy. Rhea turned to face them both. And I'm done being afraid of him. Morgana was staring at her with an expression Rhea couldn't quite read. Pride, maybe, or recognition. You've changed, her sister said softly. The girl who left 5 years ago would never have spoken like that. That girl died in a tavern room while giving birth alone. The woman who survived is someone different. Rhea's jaw set. Someone who will do whatever it takes to protect her children. A bell began to toll in the village center. Midnight. The deadline had passed, and from the hills around them, war drums began to beat. A steady, ominous rhythm that echoed through the darkness. Alaric's army was on the move. Dorian's hand found Raz again. Whatever happens, we face it together. She looked at him, at the man she'd loved and lost and found again, at the father her children had never known, at the stranger who was somehow becoming familiar again. Together, she agreed, but even as she spoke, a new commotion erupted from the village hall. Someone was screaming. Rhea ran her heart in her throat. Please not the children. Please not. She burst through the door to find chaos. Elwyn was on the ground, blood pooling beneath her head. Clara was sobbing in the corner, and Cassian stood in the center of the room, his small fists raised, silver eyes blazing with fury. They took Sarah, he shouted. Men came through the back entrance. They took my sister. The world tilted. Who? Rhea grabbed his shoulders. Who took her? Grandfather's men. They knew exactly where to look, like someone told them. Cassian's gaze shifted to Clara, and the accusation in his eyes was damning. The girl shrank back. I swear I didn't tell anyone. But Morgana was staring at Clara with growing horror. You're not Garrett's daughter. You're too old. His daughter is 8. You're at least 12. Clara's face crumpled, not with guilt, with despair. I am Garrett's daughter, but he has 2. I'm the older one, the one Lord Alaric kept hidden. She looked up at them with tear-streaked cheeks. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but he said if I didn't help him, he'd kill my sister. My real sister. She's only 8. She's so little. I couldn't. Rhea didn't wait to hear more. She was already running toward the door, toward the darkness, toward wherever they'd taken her baby girl. But Dorian caught her, his arms like iron around her waist. Stop. You'll get yourself killed. Let me go. They have Sarah. I know, his voice cracked with anguish. I know, and we'll get her back, but not like this, not by running into an ambush. Rhea fought him, her wolf surging forward, desperate and wild, but he held her, absorbing her struggles until her strength gave out and she collapsed against him, sobbing. She's 5 years old, Rhea gasped. She's just a baby. She must be so scared. I know. Dorian's arms tightened around her. But Alaric won't hurt her. Not yet. She's his leverage. He'll use her to make us surrender. Morgana's voice was hollow. He'll keep her alive until he has what he wants, Rhiannon's submission, the throne, everything. Cassian walked to his mother, his small face set in lines no child should wear. I want to fight, he said. I want to help get Sarah back. No, Rhea's voice was firm despite the tears. Absolutely not. But you stay here, safe, because I can't lose both of you. She cupped his face in her hands. Do you understand? I need you to be safe. The boy's jaw clenched, but he nodded. And as Rhea held her son, feeling his small heart beating against her chest, she made a promise to herself. She would get Sarah back, no matter what it cost, no matter who she had to become. Her father wanted a war. He was going to get one. Dawn broke red and angry across the hills. Rhea stood at the village edge, her hands steady despite the chaos raging inside her chest. She hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Sarah's face, heard her daughter's laugh, felt small arms wrapped around her neck. Somewhere in her father's camp, her baby was alone and terrified. The thought made Rhea's wolf howl for blood. "The men are in position," Dorian said, appearing beside her. His armor caught the dawn light, turning him into something that looked carved from shadow and steel. "When you give the word, we attack." "No." He turned to her, confusion flickering across his face. "What? No attack. Not yet." Rhea's voice was calm in a way that frightened even her. "I'm going to talk to him." "Rhiannon, that's suicide." "It's strategy." She finally looked at Dorian, and whatever he saw in her eyes made him step back. "My father wants me broken, wants me begging. He's expecting an attack, expecting violence, so I'm going to give him something he doesn't expect. Which is the truth." Morgana emerged from the village hall, her face pale but determined. "She's right. Father feeds on fear and anger. If you attack, you're playing his game. But if you negotiate, he could just kill her." Dorian's jaw clenched. "Take what he wants and walk away." "He won't." Rhea touched his arm, felt the tension thrumming through him. "Not while he thinks there's a chance I'll surrender. He wants me alive, submissive, under his control. That's always been what he wanted." A rider appeared on the hill, one man carrying a white flag. Garrett. The mercenary commander rode slowly down to meet them, his scarred face unreadable. When he was close enough to speak without shouting, he dismounted. "Lord Alaric offers terms," Garrett said. His voice was rough like gravel over stone. "Lady Rhiannon surrenders herself and both children. The Alpha King and his men retreat. No one else dies." "And if we refuse," Dorian asked, "then at full dawn we attack. 300 men against your 12. Garrett's eyes found Rhea's. "Your daughter is unharmed. Lord Alaric keeps her in his personal tent. She's asking for her mother." The words were a knife between Rhea's ribs. She pressed a hand to her stomach, forcing herself to breathe. "I want to see her." "That can be arranged. Lord Alaric anticipated you might wish to negotiate personally." Garrett paused. "He's willing to meet you, lone, unarmed, in the field between our forces." "Absolutely not," Dorian said immediately. But Rhea was already nodding. "Tell him I accept." Rhiannon said, "This is my choice, Dorian." She turned to face him fully. "My father, my battle, and my daughter." Her voice softened. "But I need you to do something for me. Anything. If this goes wrong, if he takes me and the children, I need you to promise you won't let it destroy you. Promise me you'll keep fighting, keep living." His silver eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I can't promise that." "Then promise me you'll try." She reached up, touched his face. "Promise me you'll be the king this realm needs, even if I'm not here to see it." Dorian caught her hand, pressed his lips to her palm. "Come back to me. To us. Please." "I'm going to try." She pulled away before her resolve could crumble. Turned to Morgana. "If I don't return, you will." Morgana's voice was fierce. "But if you don't, I'll raise Cassian myself. Teach him everything Mother taught me. Make sure he knows his worth isn't measured by Father's poison." Cassian appeared in the doorway of the village hall. His small face was set in grim lines. "Mama, don't go." Rhea crossed to him and knelt so they were eye to eye. "I have to, little love. Sarah needs me. We both need you." "I know, and that's why I'm coming back." She pulled him into a fierce embrace. "You're my brave boy, my strong, wonderful boy, and when I return, we're going to be a family again. All of us, I promise. Promises are just words." "Then watch my actions." She kissed his forehead. "I'm walking into that field to save your sister. That's love. That's truth, remember it." She stood, nodded to Garrett. "Take me to him." The walk across the field felt endless. Behind Rhea, Dorian and his men formed a defensive line. Ahead, Alaric's army spread across the hills like a stain. 300 men all watching her approach. One woman, unarmed, alone. Garrett walked beside her, silent and watchful. "Why are you helping us?" Rita asked quietly. "Because I'm tired of serving monsters." His voice was barely above a whisper. "I've done terrible things for your father. Hurt people who didn't deserve it. And for what gold security?" He shook his head. "My daughters deserve better than a father who kills for money." "Does Alaric know about your plans?" "He suspects, but he thinks fear will keep me loyal." Garrett's smile was bitter. "He's wrong." They reached the center of the field. A tent had been erected there, white silk billowing in the morning breeze. 2 guards stood at the entrance, hands on their weapons. "Lady Rhiannon to see Lord Alaric," Garrett announced. The guards parted, and Rhea stepped inside. Her father sat in a carved wooden chair that looked almost like a throne. Alaric Ashford was older than she remembered, thinner. His silver hair had gone completely white, and there were new lines carved deep around his eyes and mouth. But his gaze was the same, cold, calculating, empty of anything resembling love. And there, huddled in the corner behind him, was Sarah. Mama? The little girl tried to run forward, but one of the guards caught her, held her back. Let her go. Ria's voice was ice. Alaric raised one hand. The guard released Sarah, and she flew into Ria's arms, sobbing. Mama, I was so scared. They took me and I called for you, but you didn't come. Shh, sweetheart. I'm here now. I'm here. Ria held her daughter tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the rapid beat of her heart. Alive. Unharmed. Safe for this moment. Touching, Alaric said, but ultimately pointless. You know why you're here, Rhiannon. Ria carefully set Sarah down, positioning herself between her daughter and her father. Tell me, you're going to surrender. You both children, you'll return to House Ashford. You'll renounce any claim to Dorian Blackwood, and you'll accept your proper place as my daughter. And if I refuse, then I take the children anyway, and I kill everyone in that village, starting with the Alpha King. Alaric's smile was thin and cruel. The choice is yours. Submit willingly or watch everyone you care about die. Ria studied her father, really looked at him for the first time in 5 years. She saw a man hollowed out by ambition, a man who had sacrificed everything real, everything beautiful in pursuit of power that would never satisfy, a man who had murdered his own wife and destroyed his daughter's lives. But she also saw something else, something she'd never noticed before. Fear, deep, bone-deep fear that if he stopped controlling, stopped manipulating, stopped hurting others, they would hurt him first. Father, she said softly, when did grandfather die? Alaric's expression flickered. What? Your father, when did he die? 30 years ago. Why does it matter? How did he treat you? Silence. Long and loaded. That's irrelevant. Is it? Ria took a step closer. Mother told me once that you flinched when people raised their voices, that you never sat with your back to a door. Those aren't the habits of a man who grew up safe. Don't presume to understand me. I don't, but I'm trying to. Another step. What did he do to you, Father? Alaric's hands clenched on the arms of his chair. He made me strong. By hurting you. By teaching me that the world is cruel. That weakness is death. That the only way to survive is to control everything and everyone around you. His voice rose. Lessons you clearly never learned. No, I learned something different. Ria's voice was gentle. I learned that strength isn't control. It's choosing love, even when you're terrified. It's building instead of destroying. It's breaking cycles instead of perpetuating them. Flowery words from a naive girl. I'm not a girl anymore. I'm a mother, and I know what it means to protect my children. She paused. Did grandfather protect you? Something cracked in Alaric's expression, just for a moment, a flash of old pain, old wounds that had never healed. He did what he thought was necessary. He hurt you, and you never forgave him, so you spent your whole life making sure no one could hurt you again. Ria's throat tightened, even if it meant hurting everyone else first. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you killed Mother because she tried to leave. I know you manipulated Morgana into believing loyalty meant self-destruction. I know you tried to destroy my life because I dared to be happy. Her voice shook but held steady. And I know you're standing here now threatening your own grandchildren because you're so terrified of losing control that you can't see what you're actually losing. And what's that? Your family, your soul, any chance at redemption. Ria stepped close enough now that the guards tensed. You're dying, Father. I can see it. Whatever illness you have, it's eating you from the inside. You have months, maybe a year. Alaric's face went pale. How did you? I'm a healer. I recognize the signs. The tremor in your hands. The gray cast to your skin. The way you're holding your ribs like breathing hurts. She met his eyes. You're running out of time, and you're spending what you have left on revenge and power that won't matter when you're gone. Then what would you have me do? His voice was raw. Beg for forgiveness. Pretend the past never happened. No, I'd have you choose differently. Ria's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Before it's too late. Before you die alone, surrounded by people who fear you but don't love you. Love is weakness. Love is all we have. She gestured to Sarah, still clinging to her leg. That little girl is your granddaughter. She has your eyes, Father. Did you know that when the light hits them just right, they're the same shade of amber as yours were before they went cold? Alaric looked at Sarah, really looked, and for just a moment, something shifted in his face. She's just a child. She's your legacy, your second chance. Both of them are. Ria's voice cracked. You can choose to hurt them, use them, destroy them the way grandfather destroyed you, or you can choose to break the cycle, to be the man your father never was. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Rhea held out her hand. Yes, but it's possible, I'm proof. Because I chose to love my children even when I was terrified, even when I had nothing, even when it would have been easier to hate. Alaric stared at her outstretched hand like it was a viper. If I let you go, if I call off the attack, what then? Then you come back with me, submit to the king's justice, stand trial for your crimes. I'll be executed. Maybe. Or maybe Dorian will see what I see. A man who's made terrible choices, but who still has a chance to make one good one. She paused. Either way, you'll die having chosen mercy over cruelty, love over hate, and your grandchildren will remember you as the man who saved them instead of the monster who threatened them. Silence fell over the tent. Sarah tugged on Rhea's skirt. Mama, I'm scared. I know, sweetheart. Just a little longer. Alaric's hands trembled as he gripped the chair. His breath came in shallow gasps. And when he finally spoke, his voice was so quiet Rhea almost missed it. I loved her. Your mother. I loved her so much, it terrified me. Rhea's heart clenched, and when she tried to leave, when she chose you over me, it felt like dying. His eyes were distant, lost in memory. So I made her die instead, because if I couldn't have her, no one could. Father, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. He looked up at her, and for the first time she saw tears in his eyes. But you're right, I'm dying, and I'm so tired of being afraid. He stood, slowly, painfully, like an old man, instead of the powerful lord he'd once been. What do you need me to do? The surrender happened in stages. First, Alaric walked out of the tent with Rhea and Sarah. The sight of them together unharmed sent a ripple of confusion through both armies. Stand down, Alaric commanded his men. Lower your weapons. Garrett stepped forward. My lord, I said stand down. The attack is cancelled. Alaric's voice carried across the field. Lady Rhiannon and her children are free to go. Stunned silence. Then chaos. Mercenaries shouting questions. Guards demanding clarification. The whole careful structure of Alaric's army fracturing like ice. Garrett caught Rhea's eye. She nodded, and he turned to his men. You heard Lord Alaric, weapons down. Anyone who disobeys will answer to me. Slowly, reluctantly, the mercenaries began to comply. Dorian was already running across the field, his face wild with relief and disbelief. He reached them, dropped to his knees in front of Sarah. Are you all right? Did they hurt you? I'm okay, Papa. The words slipped out naturally, unconsciously. Mama saved me. Papa. Sarah had called him Papa. Dorian's eyes flooded with tears. He looked up at Rhea, and the emotion in his face was so raw it hurt to witness. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me yet. Rhea turned to her father. Lord Alaric has agreed to submit to your justice. He'll stand trial for his crimes. Alaric stood straighter despite the obvious pain it caused. I will confess everything. The murder of my wife, the conspiracy against the crown, the attempt on Rhiannon's life, all of it. Dorian rose slowly, his hand moving to his sword. For a long moment, he simply stared at the man who had caused so much suffering. Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you right here. I can't. I deserve death. Alaric met his gaze steadily. But my daughter asked me to choose mercy, so I'm choosing to face justice instead of continuing to run. Justice, Dorian's laugh was bitter. You've escaped justice for decades. I know, and I'm ready to pay the price. Something shifted in Alaric's expression. But before I do, I need to tell you something. About the night Rhiannon fled, I hired the impersonator, paid him well to destroy your relationship with my daughter. But the plan went deeper than that. I had men positioned to kill Rhiannon if she tried to expose the truth. She was supposed to die that night. Horror crashed over Rhea. What? The moment you stepped into those chambers and saw what you thought was Dorian betraying you, my men were waiting in the corridor. They were supposed to silence you permanently. Alaric's jaw clenched, but you ran faster than they expected. By the time they reached your chambers, you were already gone. You tried to have me murdered. Yes, and when that failed, I spread the rumor that you'd committed treason. Hoped the kingdom's hunters would find you before you could tell anyone the truth. He paused. But you disappeared so completely, even they couldn't track you. Rhea swayed. Dorian caught her, his arms solid and grounding. Why are you telling us this now? He demanded. Because I'm dying, and because she's right. Alaric looked at Rhea. I've spent my whole life being afraid, making everyone around me afraid, and I'm done. Whatever happens next, at least I'll die having told the truth. A commotion erupted from the direction of the village. Cassian was running across the field, Elowen chasing after him with surprising speed for her age. The boy didn't stop until he reached them, throwing himself at Sarah with enough force to knock her over. "You're safe, you're okay." He hugged his sister fiercely, his small face buried in her hair. "I'm okay, Cass. Mama saved me." "I know. Mama saves everything." He looked up at Rhea, his silver eyes bright with unshed tears. "I was so scared." Rhea knelt, gathering both children into her arms. "We're all safe now, all of us." "Even grandfather?" Sarah asked, looking at Alaric with curious, golden eyes. The question hung in the air. Alaric stared at his granddaughter, this small, perfect child who looked at him without fear, who saw him as a person instead of a monster. "I don't know, little one," he said softly. "That depends on a lot of things." A woman's scream cut through the moment. Morgana was running toward them, her face streaked with tears, not tears of fear, tears of desperate hope. "Father, oh gods, Father, you're alive. You're actually alive." She reached Alaric and stopped uncertain. He stood rigid, hands at his sides. "Morgana, I thought when you said you were confessing, I thought they'd kill you immediately. I thought—" Her voice broke. "I'm not dead yet. I'm so sorry. For everything. For not being strong enough to stop you. For not protecting Rhiannon, for all of it." Morgana's hands twisted together. "I know you hate me now. For betraying you. But I had to. I don't hate you." The words seemed to cost him something. "I'm proud of you." Morgana's eyes widened. "What? You chose your sister over me. Chose love over loyalty. That takes courage I never had." Alaric's voice roughened. "Your mother would be proud too." It was too much for Morgana. She closed the distance and embraced him, sobbing against his chest. And after a long moment, Alaric's arms came up. Hesitant. Awkward. But there. He was holding his daughter for what might be the first time in decades. Rhea watched them, her throat tight. This was what healing looked like. Imperfect. Painful. Full of wounds that might never fully close. But real. Dorian's hand found hers. "What do you want to do?" "Take him back to the capital. Give him a fair trial. Let the truth come out." She paused and asked the council for mercy. "After everything he's done, he's a broken man who was broken by his father, who was probably broken by his father before that. The cycle has to end somewhere." Rhea looked up at Dorian. "Let it end with us, with choice instead of revenge." Dorian was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Alaric Ashford, you are under arrest for conspiracy against the crown, murder, and treason. You will be transported to the capital to stand trial. Do you submit willingly?" "I do, Your Majesty." "Then on your honor, surrender your weapons and your command." Alaric unbuckled his sword belt, handed it to Garrett. The mercenary commander took it with something like respect in his eyes. "The men are yours now, Garrett. Use them better than I did." "I will, my lord." And just like that, it was over. No battle, no bloodshed, just a broken man choosing truth over lies, mercy over cruelty. The journey back to the capital took 5 days. Alaric rode in a prisoner wagon, but at Rhea's insistence, he wasn't chained. Morgana rode beside him, and in quiet moments, Rhea saw them talking, saw her sister's face go through 100 different emotions. Anger, grief, understanding. Healing was messy, but it was happening. Sarah and Cassian rode with Dorian perched in front of him on his massive horse. Cassian peppered him with questions about being king. Sarah sang made-up songs that made even the guards smile. And Rhea watched it all, her heart full of something that felt almost like peace. On the third night, as they camped beneath the stars, Dorian found her sitting alone by the fire. "Can I join you?" "It's your camp. It's our camp." He settled beside her, close but not touching. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know. Ask me after the trial." "Rhiannon," he turned to face her fully. "What you did back there, talking to your father instead of fighting, that took more courage than any battle. I just couldn't see another way. Violence would have meant more death, more trauma for the children." She stared into the flames. "I wanted them to see a different path. They saw their mother be extraordinary." His hand found hers. "I saw it too." She let her fingers intertwine with his. "I meant what I said earlier, about talking, about what happens next." "I'm listening." Rhea took a deep breath. "I loved you. 5 years ago, I loved you so much it terrified me. When I thought you'd betrayed me, it broke something inside." "I know. Let me finish." She squeezed his hand. "It broke something, but I built myself back, became someone stronger, someone who could survive without you." She finally looked at him. "But watching you with our children these past days, seeing how you've changed, how you've grown, I think maybe I could love you again, if we took it slow, if we built something new instead of trying to resurrect something dead." Dorian's eyes were bright in the firelight. "I would like that. Very much. No grand gestures, No immediate marriage, just time to get to know each other again. Time, he agreed, as much as you need. And the children come first, always. Always. They sat together in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the fire dance. From the wagon where Alaric was kept, Rhea heard her father coughing, a wet, rattling sound that spoke of deteriorating health. He really is dying, she said quietly. Does that change anything? It means forgiveness is complicated. He might not live long enough to earn it fully. She paused. But I'm going to try anyway. Not for him, for me. So I don't carry his poison forward. You're remarkable, you know that. I'm tired, there's a difference. Dorian's laugh was soft and genuine, and when he leaned over to kiss her forehead, she let him. Baby steps towards something that might become love again. The trial was held 3 weeks later in the grand hall of the palace. The entire court attended, nobles in their finest clothes, commoners crowding the galleries. Everyone wanted to see the notorious Lord Alaric Ashford brought to justice. Rhea sat in the front row, flanked by Morgana and Elwyn. The children were with Dorian's guards, too young to witness this. Alaric stood in the center of the hall, thinner than ever, his hands shaking slightly. But his voice was clear as he confessed. Everything, the murder of his wife, the conspiracy against the crown, the attempt on Rhea's life. He spoke for 3 hours, laying out decades of manipulation and cruelty in excruciating detail. The court was silent as death. When he finished, the Chief Justice stood. Lord Alaric Ashford, you have confessed to crimes worthy of execution. Have you anything to say before we pass judgment? Alaric looked directly at Rhea. I destroyed my family in pursuit of power I never really had. I hurt people who never deserved it. And I wasted decades on fear and control when I could have chosen love. His voice cracked. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I hope my confession brings some measure of peace to those I've wronged. The Chief Justice nodded. This court finds you guilty on all charges. The sentence is mercy. Every head turned to find Rhea standing. I'm sorry, Lady Rhiannon. I'm asking for mercy. She walked forward, her voice steady. Lord Alaric is dying. He has months at most. I'm asking the court to commute his sentence from execution to life imprisonment. Let him spend his remaining days making amends instead of ending them on a scaffold. Gasps rippled through the hall. He tried to have you killed, someone shouted. I know, and I'm choosing to forgive him anyway. Rhea turned to face the court. Because I refuse to let his cruelty turn me cruel. I refuse to perpetuate the cycle of violence that destroyed my family. And I refuse to teach my children that revenge is the same as justice. Silence. Then Morgana stood. I support my sister's request. More murmurs. Then surprisingly, Garrett rose from where he sat among the witnesses. The mercenary companies support mercy. Lord Alaric's honesty today prevented a war. That deserves recognition. One by one others stood, common people whose lives had been touched by Rhea's healing work. Nobles who respected her courage. Even some of Dorian's council. The Chief Justice looked at Dorian. Your Majesty, what say you? Dorian stood. His gaze found Rhea's across the crowded hall. I say Lady Rhiannon has shown more wisdom in 5 minutes than this court has shown in 5 decades. He looked at Alaric. The sentence is commuted. Life imprisonment in the North Tower. Comfortable but confined. You'll spend your remaining days writing a full account of your crimes. It will serve as a record, a warning, and perhaps a path to whatever redemption is possible. Alaric's knees buckled. Guards caught him before he fell. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you. The trial ended, the crowd dispersed, and Rhea found herself face to face with her father, guards between them. Why, he asked hoarsely, after everything, why show me mercy? Because someone has to break the cycle. Might as well be me. She paused. And because Sarah asked me this morning why you were sad. She said sad people need hugs, not punishment. A sound escaped Alaric that might have been a laugh or a sob. She's a better person than I ever was. Yes, and I'm going to make sure she stays that way. Rhea held his gaze. Use the time you have left well, Father. Write the truth. Own what you did. Give your grandchildren something to learn from instead of something to hide. I will. I promise. The guards led him away, and Rhea stood in the great hall feeling the weight of what she'd done settle on her shoulders. Morgana appeared at her side, slipping her hand into her sister's. You did good, little sister. Did I? Or did I just make it easier for history to forget what he did? You made it possible for us to remember him as someone who chose truth at the end. That's not nothing. Morgana squeezed her hand. Mother would be proud. Maybe. Rhea hoped so. 1 year later, the garden behind the palace was in full bloom. Roses and jasmine filled the air with sweetness. A small oak tree planted in memory of Ria's mother cast dappled shade across the grass. Ria sat beneath it with Dorian sprawled on the grass beside her, his hand resting on her ankle in casual affection. Cassian and Sarah played nearby. At 6 years old, they were still inseparable. Still extraordinary. Cassian read books on history and philosophy. Sarah had discovered a talent for music and drove the court mad with her constant practicing. They're getting big, Dorian observed. Too big. Make them stop. I don't think that's how children work. Inconvenient, he laughed, and after a moment Cassian looked up from his book. Mama, can I ask you something? Always. Why did you forgive grandfather? The question hung in the summer air. Ria had known it was coming eventually. Her son was too thoughtful not to ask. Come here, little love. Cassian walked over, settled beside her. Sarah abandoned her game to join them, curling against Ria's other side. Forgiveness, Ria said slowly, isn't about making what someone did okay. It's not about forgetting or pretending it didn't hurt. Then what is it? Cassian asked. It's about choosing not to carry their poison forward. About refusing to let what they did turn you into someone you don't want to be. She looked down at both of them. Your grandfather hurt a lot of people, including me. But if I'd chosen revenge, if I'd let hate fill my heart, that hate would have changed me, made me someone I didn't recognize. So you forgave him for you, Sarah said. Yes, and for you too, she smiled, because I want you to grow up knowing that love is always stronger than hate, that breaking cycles is possible, that we can choose to be better than the people who hurt us. Cassian was quiet for a long moment. Did it work, the forgiveness? I don't know. Some days I'm still angry, still hurt, still wish things had been different. Ria's throat tightened. But I'm not poisoned anymore. And that's enough. I think it's more than enough, Dorian said softly. I think it's extraordinary. Elowyn appeared at the garden gate carrying a basket of herbs. She'd become the royal midwife trusted and beloved. She waved, then settled on a bench to sort her harvest. Morgana was there too, having arrived earlier for dinner. She sat with Elowyn and the two of them talking in low voices. Two women who'd found friendship in unlikely places. This was Ria's family now. Blood and chosen. Broken and healing. Imperfect, but real. Tell us the story again, Sarah begged. About the night you ran away. You've heard it 100 times. We want to hear it 101. So Ria told it, the whole story. The betrayal and the journey. The fear and the survival. The twins born in a cramped room above a tavern. 5 years of building a life from nothing. And the return. The truth. The choice to forgive instead of condemn. Cassian and Sarah listened with rapt attention even though they knew every word. Because it was their story too. The story of how they came to be. How their family broke and reformed and became something new. When she finished, Cassian asked one more question. Do you regret it running that night? Ria considered. I regret the pain, the wasted years, the things we all lost. But I don't regret who I became. And I don't regret having you two all to myself for those 5 years. Even though it was hard, especially because it was hard. Easy things don't teach us much. She smiled. Besides, if I hadn't run, I never would have learned how strong I really am. And neither would you. Sarah snuggled closer. You're the strongest person in the world, Mama. Not in the world, just strong enough for what I needed to be. Dorian cleared his throat. There's something I need to tell you both. Ria turned to look at him, and the expression on his face made her heart skip. What is it? Your mother and I have been talking about the future, about our family. He glanced at Ria, seeking permission. She nodded, her chest tight with anticipation. And we've decided that in a few months we're going to have another ceremony. A proper mating ceremony. To make official what's already true in our hearts. You're getting married. Sarah bounced with excitement. More than that, Ria said softly. We're completing the bond. Becoming a family in every way that matters. Cassian's expression was serious, but there was warmth in his silver eyes. Good, it's about time. Everyone laughed at that, even Cassian eventually. And as the laughter faded and comfortable conversation filled the garden, Ria felt Dorian's hand find hers again. She squeezed back a silent acknowledgement of everything they'd been through, everything they'd survived, everything they'd built together. 6 months ago, her father had died quietly in his cell. His memoirs were published as promised, a warning to future generations. Morgana had used her inheritance to open a sanctuary for women and children fleeing abuse, naming it after their mother. The cycles were breaking, slowly, painfully, but breaking nonetheless. There's one more thing, Dorian said, his voice dropping to something private meant only for Ria's ears. I spoke with the royal physicians. About us. About trying again. He took both her hands. I wanted to make sure there was no magic left. No lingering effects. And Brifo, Ria's breath caught. You're free completely. Whatever we build from here, it's real. Relief and joy flooded through her in equal measure. Good, because there's something I need to tell you too. His eyes widened. You're not. I think I might be. She smiled. It's early yet, I wasn't sure. But watching you with the children today, seeing how much love there is here, I think maybe our family isn't quite finished growing. Dorian's hands trembled in hers. Another child. Another beginning, she corrected. Another chance to get it right. He kissed her, then soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Cassian was watching with a knowing expression. I knew it, the boy said. You've been sick in the mornings. Nothing gets past you, does it? Ria laughed. Nope. He grinned, looking suddenly every inch a 6-year-old instead of the old soul he usually seemed to be. Am I going to have a brother or a sister? We'll have to wait and see. Sarah bounced over, eyes shining. Can I name the baby this time? We'll talk about it, Dorian and Ria said in unison, then looked at each other and laughed. The sun sank lower, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. The family sat together beneath the oak tree, Elowen and Morgana joining them as the evening cooled. Stories were told, plans were made, and through it all, Ria felt gratitude so deep it made her chest ache. She had walked through fire, had been broken and reformed, had chosen love over hate, mercy over revenge, forgiveness over poison. And she had survived. More than survived. She had built something beautiful from the ashes. I love you, she told her children. Told Dorian. Told her sister and her dearest friend. Told the universe itself. I love you all so much. We love you too, Mama, Sarah and Cassian chorused. Dorian's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining like they were always meant to. And in the garden beneath her mother's tree, surrounded by the people who mattered most, Rhiannon Ashford, healer, mother, survivor, soon-to-be queen, was finally completely home. The end was really just another beginning. And this time she was writing the story herself.